Sorry, 2 seconds. I just realized I was not centered. Okay. Welcome back to another episode of Unofficially Opinionated. We are your host. I'm Nate. Chris. We're joined by, we're joined,
With and by,
yes,
yes.
with and by, see, huh, Steve and Tim. How are y'all doing? It's been a minute since we all been together.
Yes, 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 yes.
It's always a good time.
We try. We try to make it a good time.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, but like I guess at time of recording, we're almost to the end of October, which is really I don't even understand where the year went. It was I feel like it was just Christmas and now it's October, almost November again. So
Oh, really? Um, I'm looking forward to
no,
Christmas,
I'm
so I
looking
haven't.
forward to it. It's just surprising that it's here. So I wasn't ready, and I know it's
Oh
gonna all
well,
of a sudden be January and it'll be gone. But
yeah.
I'm trying to
Don't say
take it day by day and
that.
appreciate it. But yeah, I mean we've been on Hallmark for a month already, so it's I'm in the
Yes.
holiday spirit.
Bring me the Hallmark. How y'all doing, Steve and Tim?
I'm doing good. A lot of stuff on my plate lately, but
Yeah, you look
other than that,
concerned.
I'm doing
I
good.
ain't gonna lie. You look like things are running through your
That's
head.
his resting Tim face. He's
I have a lot of stuff going. No, I do have a lot of stuff going through my head right
Yeah,
now.
well,
A lot of planning and going on. So,
planning keeps
but
the brain active.
yeah.
and annoyed.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
And that.
Oh,
How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I just feel like time is flying by and just trying to keep up with you guys. So it's a lot of things happening, but we're moving forward.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Well, today we are going to be kind of piggybacking off of a topic that we had already talked about a while ago. It's actually our most listened to topic. Y'all remember? Y'all know what that topic is?
bear, 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 bear.
Eh, no.
It was
I
how to,
remember because
I
I was
think it was how
there.
to get rich, right? Wasn't it the how to
How
get
to get
rich?
rich quick.
Yeah, I think I saw a lot of hits on that
Right.
podcast.
We should do a how to get rich. Neither of us are rich. So we probably have
Only two
horrible
hours a day from
suggestions.
home.
Right. No, our most successful podcast to date is our on the topic of the silver mind control method. And in that I actually did the silver mind control method, uh, what they call an internship, but it's basically just like a training. So I actually did it, and I just basically shared with everybody what I learned and how effective I thought it was going to be and stuff like that. So, oh, speaking of which, actually, I wanted to share some like updates for that because this ties in perfectly with what we're going to talk about today, which is demystifying hypnosis. But concerning the silver mind control method, so I was using that to kind of, for lack of a better term, manifest. So there's this new word out. I mean, this is what people have been using for a long time, like the word manifest, like you manifest things. So stick to manifest. I didn't manifest actually. I did this, one of the techniques, which was like the dream technique, to get a job that I really wanted. And 7 months later, so you need patience. 7 months later, I actually got the job. Now I don't know if I'm going to stay with the job, but that's a whole nother concept. But the initial, the initial request or the initial desire was that I get this job, and I got it. And I've been talking to these guys about it forever. So I actually got the job. It's really really interesting. So currently now I have two jobs. So, but today we are going to be talking about demystifying hypnosis. Why do I think that we need to? First of all, what do y'all think about hypnosis? What do you think it is? Like what? What do you think? what have you heard about hypnosis?
I think for me, when I think about hypnosis, the first thing comes to mind is just seeing, probably some magic show or some kind of entertainment venue where, they call somebody up and, you know, on the count of three, and then, bark like a dog and
Crack
Bam.
like
walk
a bear.
around and, all the crazy stuff. Right. So that's the
Right.
first thing I think of. Then secondly, I think of this movie I watched called, I can't remember what it was called, but I think I told you about this movie where
Oh, I think you
it's
did. It's
essentially
like a horror one, or
right,
right, or thriller.
she was getting hypnotized for a different purpose, but the person was implanting all this other stuff, and
Hmm.
then kind of it came to a head later, and she couldn't really figure out what was real and what was fake, and it was a
Right. I
whole
remember you
a
telling me
whole
about
mess.
that. Yeah.
So those two things are
That's
what come to mind
always.
immediately.
Hmm.
So yeah, I know there's more to it than that, obviously, as I've been reading
Hmm.
as well, but yeah, that's kind of the first pass when I think about it.
Okay. Tim, Steve.
And I'll probably say I share the same sentiments, um, except for I've never seen that movie. But man, if that sounds ridiculously scary, I would never want
Right.
somebody just implanting some crap
Right.
in me and then destroying my life. Because yeah, that's like yeah. But just being able to open yourself to different reality, it's that's kind of in the area I think it is too. So I mean, I don't know everything about it, um but those are my ideas, and I share the same sentiments as Chris. So
Okay. Steve, you have any preconceived notions about hypnosis?
Uh, I think it's I just think of someone giving up their will. I think it's someone handing their will over to someone else, and they just kind of allow someone else to dictate what they're thinking or what's in their mind. I think it's a matter of control, giving up control. I think that's what I think of when I think of hypnosis. I think of people who become under someone else's authority, and some
Okay.
of it may be subconscious.
Yeah. Do you, I have a question for us specifically. Do you think that our upbringing, religious upbringing, may also play a role in the way we think about what hypnosis is?
I think that paired with the general view of hypnosis in society, I think broadly it's kind of viewed as, to Steve's point, kind of taking away control of your mind, giving someone else control of your mind, opening your mind to suggestion and influence, which part of it is that. I think that naturally in a religious environment, you know, can be kind of scary. Like, wait a minute, I'm opening my mind to suggestion from some outside influence that's not necessarily God or someone I trust in that same way, right? So I think just those two things together, I think just makes it gives it kind of an air of distrust, right? Because opening up my mind in a way that that sometimes feels like it should only be kind of a one way narrow lane between kind of you and God, I think is how it's viewed sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the rest of y'all?
I I'll say this. So when I was young, or when I was a little kid, I was always taught that we were supposed to guard the entrances to our soul and everything.
Oh, that's
And
so
so
Ellen White.
yes. So so with that being said, you know, hypnosis was never on the
On the
the
table.
highest tier of
Yeah.
interest, because that's like going against everything
Yeah.
in that sense, what I was taught. Because it's like, and I'm sorry that I keep agreeing with you, Chris,
It
but
Don't be
makes sense,
it's
sorry.
you
like
know.
giving up. It's like giving up control and allowing, allowing those gates to be open and giving control to someone else.
Hmm.
You know, um, I don't think I trust anybody that much. you know,
I feel you.
so
Listen.
I'm interested in hypnosis and stuff, right? But
Hmm.
not for me.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. Like the concept, yeah, very interesting.
Okay.
But would I ever do it? No.
Yeah.
not to myself.
So I actually tried hypnosis. It didn't work. I couldn't go into trance. Excuse me. I tried it multiple times with a couple different people. I couldn't go into trance. Probably because I think I have ADHD. Because my brain. Well, let me tell you. So, like hypnosis, one of the most basic. So I met this hypnotist. He's a professional hypnotist, for hip, like hypnotherapy. He also does erotic hypnosis, which is actually why I got into hypnosis.
Of course.
Um, but right.
That all adds up.
but but he does hypnotherapy as well, and basically he said, which I later found on other websites, but he basically said that uh, did Harry Hypnosis, hypnotist anyway. Um, that's his website also, harryhypnotist.com. But
Not clicking that.
he's
Not touching it.
not, not, not unless you're ready for that. As I said, erotic hypnosis, so be prepared. But anyways, he calls hypnosis just being in a state of in, incredible focus, or like incredible concentration, which we have all been in, not under the guise of hypnosis, but you know, like for example, I can get very focused if I'm like on doing a project, like a work project or something like that. Um, like I can get very focused, and I get so focused that if something is trying to interrupt me, I get frustrated. I'm like, don't interrupt me. Like, like I'm in the zone. That's basically what you call it. I'm in the zone. Like whatever. So I wanted to give you some definitions, because even with hypnosis, like not everybody agrees, I guess, with what hypnosis is.
Yeah.
Probably because, I mean, stop me if you think I'm wrong, but probably because it's just the mind is so like there's so much we don't know about the mind, you know. So it's quite likely like they're just trying to figure this out. So anyways, so I googled what hypnosis was, and Google says they use Oxford Languages if you want to check it out. But they say that hypnosis is the induction of a state of consciousness in which a person apparently loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direction. That's kind of what you all were. That's kind of what you were saying, Steve, about losing the power of voluntary action. It says it's use in therapy, typically to um, cover suppressed memories or to allow modification of behavior, has been revived but is still controversial. That's very important. I think we'll probably come back around to that. The definition from the Britannica says it's a special psychological state with certain physiological attributes resembling sleep, only superficially, and marked by a functioning of the individual at a level of awareness other than the ordinary conscious state. The state is characterized by a degree of increased receptiveness and responsiveness in which inner experiential perceptions are given as much significance as is generally given only to external reality. That is very, very like complex language. Um, but I also wanted to read you one more definition, or one more, yeah, kind of definition
Hmm.
from the Hopkins, John Hopkins Hospital, where they say hypnosis is similar to sleep, where the mind is altered, blah blah blah. So we heard that before. It's used for things such as breaking bad habits, controlling pain, which Britannica, and the Oxford Languages stated. They said that some mentally healthy people cannot be hypnotized. Others are more receptive to this form of therapy, but hypnotism will not work if the person does not want to be hypnotized. And then it also says hypnotism requires trust and imagination. So that's those are kind of three different kind of definitions. They all have this similar. I guess they all say similar things, but they all are divergent as well. They all go off into their own kind of tangents, I suppose. What do y'all think about those?
It sounds very, my first impression, it sounds very philosophical. Sounds like this is people who want to believe in this, and not everybody can believe. And the people that experience this thing, you kind of have to trust that they experienced it, because there's no way to prove that this is actually happening or not. That's how it sometimes comes across to me. It looks like it could be
Yeah.
fake. You got actors that could fake it, or you got real people that are actually going through it, but because I'm not experiencing it, I don't know. I'm just watching and observing.
Hmm.
You know, you saying that just makes me remember things like, have you all ever went to like Baptist churches where people,
Oh,
yeah,
oh no.
when they get the Holy Spirit or the
Right.
Holy Ghost, and
Yeah. Yes. Some people like okay. Other people like
Once,
you're not sure.
so,
You're not sure.
well,
you're
Like
not sure.
I'm not in
You
your
know?
mind. I don't know what you're feeling. Right? I don't know. Didn't hit me the same
Yeah,
way,
that's
yeah, I
but
know what you said.
I don't know. I don't know.
that's what came to my mind when Steve was
Right.
talking about that. So,
Yeah. Like when I think about this, it's what I find interesting is that I think Nate, you mentioned how we're still there's so much about the brain we don't understand. So
yeah.
like we can observe what happens, but trying to get back to why and the mechanism, I think a lot of things we still don't understand fully how it works. Like how a woman or even a man can essentially almost induce pregnancy in themselves, right? Like these false pregnancies
Mm,
that
yeah.
mentally your
Yeah.
brain can make your body make that happen. Like that to
Yes.
me is so wild, and that
It is,
happened.
right?
Like it's a true
Hmm.
thing, and just
Yes.
all about all kinds of what's the word for the medicine that's the fake one, placebo effects,
A placebo.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's very real. Like
It
in a
is. Yeah.
lot of ways there is some percentage of healing that your brain can trick itself into doing. So
Yep.
that being said, I don't think this is like fake.
Hmm.
I do think it's just still a very unknown area, which makes
Yes.
me nervous, right? Because
Hmm.
we see the effect and we see we did something, but we don't
Hmm.
necessarily know how or why or what's
Right.
actually occurring. So that's
Yeah.
where I'm like, because Johns Hopkins seems to indicate that they at least think that you can't be hypnotized unless you want to be. And it's very much
Right.
about you being open. And if you don't want to, then you can't.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
cool. I like that. you know, I don't know how much of that is true.
Hmm.
But that's the kind of where I'm thinking about it at
Hey
least.
Chris, let me chime in after you because I think that's interesting that you're saying that. This kind of makes me think of lucid dreaming as well. I almost wonder
Oof.
if there's some correlation between that and hypnosis and just levels of consciousness. Like I've been having lots of conversations about dying or death, just because this, having some friends that died, but I
Oh.
think when we think about that, I just
Yeah.
imagine what does that experience look like? And I was telling someone, well, um, I think death isn't immediate. I think what happens, you go into this level of the gray where maybe your heart stops pumping, but there's still oxygen being depleted over time, and there's an experience that's taking place. And so I don't think hypnosis is like dying or like, necessarily, but I think there's some components of the mind, like you're saying, that we don't know until we experience it. And so until we experience it, we're all kind of trying to guess what is it? What does it mean when you die? What happens? Are you really floating around? You see things floating around and you kind of go up in the air? I don't know what people experience. We kind of see the effects of when people die. Some people run around with their heads cut off, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, not to get so
At
dark.
least chickens.
Yeah.
but it's like you don't have control of yourself and your mind is taking control. And I feel like lucid dreaming is kind of like that too, but it's more of a subconscious thing. Hypnosis is, I don't even know where that falls. Is that a conscious you can't can you hypnotize a person that's asleep or someone that's dead? I don't think so.
Well, let's see. I've done some research on hypnosis and also lucid dreaming. which I don't want to dabble in currently because I don't know enough about it to be. It's interesting because you all know what lucid dreaming is, right? The apparently you're supposed to be able to train yourself to lucid dream, which basically means, correct me if I'm wrong, but just um, go to sleep and be able to control what is happening in your dream,
Right.
and kind of like come out of, well, lucid dreaming can be brought to, what is it called? Oh, I forgot the term.
I, I,
I
I,
forgot the term where you kind of seen, you can kind of like an out of body experience, which is not the same. So you have to lucid dream in order to get to that state, and then you're able to.
you're talking about
There's a term
nirvana.
for it.
You're talking about nirvana.
No,
Oh,
no, there's a term for being able to do that. Anyways, so that's lucid dreaming, right? So you're able to
right,
control your dreams. Do you have your dreams, control them, and it's kind of like very clear, right?
right.
Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
what
I
we're
think
talking about?
most of the time when it happens to us, it's by accident and it's kind of
Yeah.
fleeting. Like sometimes you'll be dreaming and all of a sudden you realize, oh, I know I'm dreaming and I can affect this. Let me try to,
Right.
make something happen. And then you wake up too early or, something goes haywire. But yeah, I have heard people that I've seen courses and other things around how to train yourself to
Yeah.
be in kind of a mental state where when you fall asleep, you're kind of ready to kind of control the dream. I remember people in high school that they were trying to like practice different ways of thinking to kind of help them to know when you're asleep and to know kind of how to then function. But
They're all
Yeah.
oxymorons. I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at. The idea of being able to control the dream, that's a level of awareness or consciousness in a state of unconsciousness. It makes no
right.
sense. Hypnosis is kind of similar, is an oxymoron to me. It's like you're you're a being that's made to be able to make choices, and now but you're not giving that up. It's like weird to
Well,
me.
so let me.
Well,
So
I
go ahead, Tim. Go.
oh no, I was gonna say, so like I don't know exactly. Like I know there's been times where I've personally been asleep, and I don't dream very much, but when I do dream, you know, there's been times where I was able to control my dream. Then there's been times where the dream just took over and I controlled myself, but I couldn't control anything in the dream, which is so ridiculous. But um, so I mean, to be unconscious to hold a state of consciousness, um, it's possible. I mean, I've done that, and then I've not done it perfectly, so I've seen both sides of it. Um, but like earlier, like the whole John Hopkins thing, it the way they worded that kind of almost sounded like a disclaimer, almost like it's like this is possible, but it's not possible. But
Well, because
for some people it
I
works.
think it sounds like that because they practice it at the hospital, and the
Okay.
Mayo Clinic also practices it as well. So that's probably why it sounds like a
Yeah,
disclaimer. That's
I mean
probably
there are
just a scare.
different ways this is implemented. There's the jokey entertainment piece, but then there's legitimate therapy happening, right, where they use these techniques. It's not like it's out there like it's only quackery, right? this
Right.
it's legitimately used right now for therapy purposes. What I thought was
Yeah.
interesting was how I think at least one disclaimer, maybe two disclaimers around being careful when using it to try to like recover memories, because it's very easy to create false
Create a
memories
memory.
through
Yeah.
that process, which I think is
Yes.
that's where it's kind of scary. But it makes
Hmm.
sense, right? Because memory is so fungible anyway, right? So
Yeah.
when you start messing with that, I can see how it'd be very easy, even without being hypnotized, to create a false memory and misremember something. Much less if you're starting to muddle with it and move things around and try to dig through things. And if someone
Yeah.
is saying something to you in that state, and then now you think that's a memory,
Yeah.
could be
Hmm.
dangerous.
Hypnotherapists, so they use these things. Sometimes they do uh, like age regression, so if you want to kind of go back in the day and try to see if there was something that happened back in the day that might have triggered something or whatever, blah 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 blah. They use this to do that, but as you were talking, as you were saying, Chris, like it's very easy to, I don't know, make yourself think that this is a memory when it's actually not a memory. It might be, I've never experienced it, but I'm thinking, oh, it might be um, something that that they might be being suggested to you, or maybe something you think might should have happened but didn't.
Right.
And so you say, oh, it did happen. um, Someone actually suggested that to me, not in hypnosis, but someone suggested something had happened to me when I was younger. um, I was like, I am pretty sure that that didn't happen.
Right.
But since I have so much confidence in that person, had I been under hypnosis, I might have been able to cause that to have happened to me. And the thing about it is, if I had done that in this state of severe focus, uh, you know, severe focus, and my body might have reacted to might have reacted to it as though it had actually happened,
Yeah.
right? So they say that you know actually my husband had told me this, and then I looked it up somewhere, but he had said the some scientists say that go you know imagining yourself at a destination has the same effects on your brain as actually being there.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
agree.
if you're imagining this thing and you're super focused on it, like you are seeing it and actually experience it, but it's all just in your head, your body can react as though you were there.
You know,
So
this kind. Okay, you guys are gonna laugh on this, but this makes me think of a show for children that helps them to focus on something and takes them away to another place. It makes me think of a show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where kids would go to a magical world and they
Right.
would be hyper focused on these puppets that would become real. And he would tell you to kind of close your eyes and imagine, right? I think
Like ding, 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 ding,
yeah.
ding,
I
ding.
think there's a lot of shows that did that when kids. I mean, is that so? If a child closes their eyes and counts backwards, from three, with the person on the television, and then they open their eyes and they're in a magical place where things that normally talk like animals start talking, and anything is possible. I mean, is that hypnosis? Are we hypnotizing our kids to teach them how to count?
Well, let me tell you. So hypnosis. So when I was doing hypnosis, like I said, I wasn't able to be hypnotized kind of in the normal, I suppose, normal fashion where I was watching. So I tried to watch spirals, right? That didn't work. It's just because my brain just kept going everywhere. Like I was unable to focus, right? So I tried it with people like well, over the internet. Um, Sorry, like through Skype and stuff like that. That didn't work as either. I could get really relaxed because I know how to relax myself, but I couldn't get hypnotized. But I did the silver mind control, which is a form of hypnosis. They train you in a form of hypnosis where Steve, they count you down. So you start at three, you imagine something. It's got a lot to do with your imagination. I think that's what wasn't that what John Hopkins said? Wait, I'm gonna just look here. I think they said something about um, some
In their disclosure.
someone says that they like it requires a lot of imagination. Someone, oh yeah, hypnotism requires trusting imagination.
Hmm.
So it does require a lot of imagination for this hypnosis that was self hypnosis that I was doing, which was I counted from three and I was breathing and kind of concentrating on each part of my body, again focusing, and then two, and then you think of a scenic place where you just feel like safe and relaxed and at ease, everything, whatever. And then one, you get down to one, and you are kind of in this space, right? So as we covered in the silver mind 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 control episode, scientists have discovered that your brain operates on a few different waves, and they've given them names that operate within different frequencies. Yeah, within different frequency ranges. So the current state that we're in now is called the delta state, according to the scientists. And this is what the silver mind control was explaining. Excuse me, which I researched afterwards, and it is true. But they don't know if these are the only state frequencies or state of mind. So, anyways, delta. Then just under that would be what they call the alpha state, where your brain is much more relaxed, um, and it more information is able to flow through less inhibited, right? So they say in the alpha state, so obviously you're not asleep, you're awake, but you are very relaxed and you might be on the brink of sleep, which happened to me. Like it can relax you. You can relax yourself so much that obviously you can put yourself to sleep. The idea is not to go to sleep because then you're not going to be able to like hypnotize yourself or, I mean, be hypnotized or be in this meditative state. So you go into the alpha, your brain is much more relaxed, more information is able to go through through your um, through your brain, and this is the state where you this is the ideal state to try to solve problems, apparently. Why? Because the more stressed you are, the more stressed your brain is, the less like the less information is going to be flowing. It's going to be more strained, right? All right. Didn't you do some research on radio, Steve, back in the day, like electron? I feel like you did some like
I
I feel
probably
like you
did.
had
I probably
to
did.
electronics or whatever. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So basically, you're trying to release tension. The more tension there is, the less information is going to be able to pass. So the less tension there is, the more information is going to be able to pass. So that is why it's better to try to do problem solving in the alpha state, which is what they call it, alpha frequency. And then you have the theta state, which is even more relaxed than the alpha state, and then you have the delta state, which is sleep, right? Excuse me. Or sorry, not delta. Was it?
Okay, I was
It's
about to say.
delta, alpha, theta.
Gamma?
Beta? I don't know.
I think
Gamma.
it might be gamma. I think it might be. No, it's not
The
gamma.
Hulk state?
Is it beta? Is it beta?
Folks.
Hey,
I
Nate.
can't remember.
Hey,
Beta,
Nate.
whatever. Anyways,
Hey,
that's the real. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let me ask you a question. I'm listening to you talk here, and I haven't,
Hmm.
I don't know anything about the Silva method, but what you just described sounds like something I watched. Well, this is going to sound bad, but I've seen videos. I'll say it that way. I've seen videos where people
Mm.
kind of take psychedelics, right? Have you ever seen someone go through the psychedelic experience? It sounds very much like what you're describing. They go through a place. They go to a place where they're not.
Hmm.
They're conscious, but
Hmm.
they're. It's like they're almost asleep, and they're like experiencing a whole bunch of things that are. It's like everything is exaggerated to them. I guess their senses capture information in an exaggerated state. And then another thing too, talking about psychedelics, is maybe think of people who I remember reading or hearing stories of like rappers or something. They like to smoke certain things to help them write music.
That weed.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I say those things because I almost wonder if those get you very close to something that's almost like you're in a hypnotic state where you're able to freely think. You're in a place that it's like they can't do what they need to do until they go into these special places.
Right.
Well, I do, yeah. Concerning like smoking like cannabis and stuff like that, I don't know if that would be the same state. I know that it is supposed to relax you, so it might
Hmm.
be.
Yeah.
It
I think, yeah,
it
I mean,
is.
and psychedelics are even a step further than like weed, right? It's a whole different level,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
in probably a few weeks, we're going to talk about that, you guys. So we're going to have Matthew
Oh.
Gamble on. We're going to watch the documentary
Yay.
on Netflix, and we're going to talk about this.
Uh-huh.
So stay
Okay.
tuned. It's going
Well,
to be
listen,
interesting. Yeah, for sure. But
that is going to be interesting.
so
So.
one thing I've been thinking about as we're talking about hypnosis is let's take as fact that hypnosis is real and does work. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you all uncomfortable with its use in a way that maybe you wouldn't be with, say, open heart surgery. Because in any surgery, as we know, is very risky. Any surgery, for any
Right.
reason, when they open you up, it's a super risky thing. They can definitely do damage and unintentionally mess up something and whatever. So with any surgery, you have to weigh, okay, if I don't have the surgery, what's my likelihood of surviving and being okay versus the risk inherent to surgery in a hospital. Do you view hypnosis similarly, or do you think it's a whole different category?
I view it differently. I
Hmm.
would definitely not view hypnosis like I would view a surgery. I think they both maybe have similar risks, but hypnosis is like a cognitive cerebral thing. I look at it that way. I don't look at it like heart surgery is not that. It's something you um I feel like it's more scientific. That's why I kind of go back to the whole philosophical thing. I was like, I think it's almost like you have a therapist more so, a psychotherapist that would do this on you to help you with a issue with your mind. And so any issues with your mind that doesn't require like a lobotomy or something. I mean, I think those would be the both sides. So the lobotomy would be the whole surgery side, and then the hypnosis would be more of a therapy side. That's how I would classify them. That's my first impression.
So you view it as more risky than a physical intervention?
I feel like it's less scientific, so it's more is less likely to predict the outcome. So I would say so risk is maybe something that's hard for me to say because I don't know. I feel like surgery would be more risky because you're opening yourself up for more risk, but the if let's just say if it were a therapeutic type of thing, the risk would be minimal, but it may be hard to measure for success too. It'd be more subjective. So in that case, if we were to do studies to then convince other people to take it, I think it's harder to to prove it. You
Actually,
almost have to go in believing it's true.
that
Like
is
you're saying,
exactly
we
how
almost have to just agree it all is
hypnosis
true.
works. Is
Well,
you're taking
yeah.
you're taking your own brain. So like the hypnotist is simply aiding you into relaxing, kind of like if you're just doing like a meditation, for example, right? It's just helping you get into that state. If we're talking about hypnotherapy, the hypnotist is not telling you to do things that you don't want to do. And in fact, you, unlike surgery, Chris, you can decide, I don't want to do this while you are being hypnotized because no one is taking away your power of decision making, right? Unless you want your power of decision making taken away. But that is something totally different. Like if you're going in there and you're just like, I want to learn how to be, relaxed or something like that. So what a lot of people do is use it to kind of help them quit smoking, right? So we know that it's, smoking is two things.
Right.
It is physical and it is mental, right? I mean, it has those two components. If you're going to try to quit, you're going to have withdrawals. Your body's going to have physical withdrawals, and then your brain is going to have withdrawals, right? Excuse me. And the idea is that you use hypnosis to convince yourself that you do not like smoking in whichever way. That's a very simplistic way of doing it because obviously a hypnotherapist might have to go a little bit deeper, figure out why you still started smoking in the first place, if you actually really want to stop smoking, blah, blah, blah. The same thing goes for overeating, um, any type of any type of addiction or something like that. I'm not saying that this is like the end all. Like I'm not telling anybody this is how you get rid of it. I'm saying this is what they use to kind of help these types of situations. Your it's it is all in your brain, and they're
Right.
teaching you how to use your brain more in order to um, achieve the things that you want to achieve.
Hey Nate, let me ask you a
Yeah.
question, and I'm sorry I keep taking over here, and I'm gonna throw a question to Christian here at the end, but I'm questioning myself. Okay, so why can't a psychotherapist do this? And I almost want to say, furthermore, I feel like psychics do this. That's what a psychic would do. They would work with you to help you to get into your mind to figure your future out. And so
I th-
I don't know. I mean, Chris, I mean, what do you think about that? Do psychics and psychotherapists and hypnosis are they all in the same boat, or are they similar?
So to me, a psychic is someone that's telling you something like outside of you, right? So I don't see psychics as trying to help your brain. They're trying to tell you something you don't know. Now, as I think about the hypnosis piece, which
Or
is why I
communicate to
remember
the
even
dead.
growing up, my dad had a book, as you can, if you can imagine this, a book on self hypnosis, right? And I read a little bit of it, but really the idea is, I think to Nate's point, the psychotherapists that practice, we're going to talk about clinical hypnosis, right? Not someone entertaining people, but the idea
right.
is to help you get to a place where you can start speaking to yourself in a state that you will listen. You know, it's similar to meditation, similar to mantras, like these things where you like look in the mirror every day and repeat this thing to yourself. Over time, you will believe it and it can change yourself, right? Or so mantras, meditation, those things I think are the same as hypnosis, as external hypnosis. Where I think a psychotherapist is just if you need some assistance kind of working through the process, they can help you. But again, from what I've seen and read about the clinical hypnosis, I'm going to use that in quotes, right? To Nate's point, it requires you wanting to do the thing. So it's not going to go against your will. It's to kind of heighten and expand what you want to do to help you talk to yourself in a way. Now, they may be speaking, but they're speaking to you what you've asked them to speak to you because you already internally
Right.
want to do it. So it's kind of a way to help jumpstart your will, your like willpower in a way, not necessarily do something you don't want to do. Now, again, I think when you look at the entertainment piece, from what I can tell, that will require you, I think, to today's point, to want to be open to do things you don't want to do, which I think is already a very dangerous thing. I see no reason to ever do that, right? Assuming this all works the way we think it works, which again, I think to your point, Steve, is very difficult to prove and quantify and really show. But like as I mentioned before, kind of with placebo effects, things can work without us understanding how they work or why they work, which makes it less reliable if you're going to be spending money on it, but doesn't mean it's fake. It means maybe we don't yet know by what mechanism it actually happens. We just know we do these 5 things and sometimes it works. Why or how, we don't know yet. Maybe in the future we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's my rant.
Uh, and I think Chris, that's good. That's good. So let me zone in a little about what I was saying earlier because I appreciate what you said. So I guess I view psychics, psychotherapists, hypnosis, like people that practice hypnosis. I almost feel like there is a level of overlap over all three, and I think all three overlap in the perspective of like you said, they help people do something about changing their future. I think that's what they all three are trying to do. I guess maybe they're using different methods, but I think when it's all said and done, you would go to these three types of people so that your future would be better. I think that's what you try to go to all three for. And so, but I guess you're right. I think a psychic isn't trying to tell you what's in your mind. They're probably trying to tell you what you don't know. I guess they're trying to put something in your mind. I almost feel like that's what hypnosis is too. They're putting something in your mind. That's what it. That's what it. That,
wait,
oh,
wait,
sorry.
wait. So I'm gonna throw a wrench into this.
All right.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe y'all. So like I used to call it brainwashing.
Oh
I
boy.
think I probably stopped this, but um, I when I left the church, I was very angry, right? And I was, kind of getting out of the stuff that I had learned in the church. And when I reflected back on what I learned, I felt that it was brainwashing, right? Excuse me. It was continuously it was continuous and repetitive. It was continuously repetitive. When we were young, I was young, impressionable, learning these things the way that they taught until I just believed it, right? And it's just something that I believe. So, for example, you cannot, not none of us can prove that God exists. None of us can. We can talk about it, right? We Our lives are kind of dependent. We act like in our daily lives, I suppose, um, that God exists, but there's no way that we can prove God exists. And in addition to that, um, faith and belief cannot be proven either, right? It is something that we are supposed to have. So, for example, we're supposed to believe that Jesus died for our sins. Do any of us have any type of proof that Jesus actually died for our sins? And that even if Jesus came to this earth, even if we have solid proof that Jesus came to this earth, he actually died, do we know that what he did is good enough to cleanse us from our sins and take us to heaven? We won't know this in all actuality if the Bible is real, okay? We won't know this until God returns. And then what if he says, no, y'all was doing it all wrong?
Yeah, yeah,
Y'all was doing this all wrong.
yeah. I mean, when you use the word "no," right? Is there's not a lot that we can truly know for a fact. Even
Right,
even all basis for all of our science and everything, like it's based off current ideas around how math works and how physics works, and this is all it's all theories that have been proven over time. But again, a theory is great until you disprove it. And so
Right.
anything is open to at some point being disproven. I think when you look at religion, it's necessarily a personal thing, right? Like no one can tell you the experience you had with God, right?
right,
So at the end of the day, that'd be something where, okay, I've experienced this. I can't tell you that is true outside of I experienced it. And if you believe me to be a truthful person, then you take that and then we kind of run with it that way. But if you
yeah,
believe me to be delusional, then you will not believe me, right? You'll say, you know what? Yeah, I know you say you experienced that, but really, I think it's fake, it's phony. You were, it was you kind of self deluding yourself. Didn't really happen, but good for you. So I think as far as faith is concerned, religiously, it's necessarily can't be proven, and it has to be kind of a personal thing.
So
but it has to be based in your it is based in your mind. It has to be based in your mind, your belief and your faith. Sorry, Steve, what were you going to say?
well, you want me to be devil's advocate here? Because I could totally be devil's advocate on this one, big
I want
Okay,
time.
you to say what you got to say. Like we
be the devil, Steve.
yeah.
I'm sorry, devil's advocate.
Right. So when we talk about knowing, I think we would need to define it because I think there's a lot of ways of knowing. So we when it comes to
Absolutely.
knowing, yeah, we need to go deep on that if we're going to go there.
Right.
That might be a tangent because I could probably talk a while on the knowing side of things. But okay, you talked about brainwash. I think that brainwash is a harsh word because I think that's something that's forced on you, and I think that hypnosis is never something that's forced. So I think brainwash is way far fetched for the context of what we're talking about here. Um, and then you talk about proving something. I think you actually can prove something to someone who wants it to be proven to them. So I think if I really want to believe something and I come in with a bias already kind of believing it, it's easier to prove it to them, even if it really doesn't prove it to someone who's skeptical. I think that's part of the problem. So I really do think that even you talk about God, and that's a vague term probably, but if you want to prove God to someone who wants to believe, I don't think it takes much. I think you could do a little and you'll prove something to them. But someone who doesn't want to believe, you're right. You can't prove it, even if there was a God who came down and stood. I mean, I think a person that's skeptical, you can't prove things that are facts. I mean, that's why we have
That's
alternative
kind.
facts
That's
now
kind of.
Oh,
because they just choose to not
And that's
believe.
kind of what.
Steve, we had a lovely
That's kind
episode
of like
about
what John
facts.
Hopkins was saying,
We
that
did.
if you don't want to believe it, that it's not going to work for like hypnotizing and stuff. So, I mean,
But that's also how
um,
placebos work as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
right? So the concept is if you're if your brain thinks that it is a thing, then it is a thing, regardless of whether it is this thing or not.
Right.
Right?
I mean, listen, that's part of the whole idea of what consciousness really is. I think it's a questioning of what is real and what's not. I think,
I don't know if real is the problem. So for example, you can make listen. I'm gonna tell y'all something. It's gonna sound really crazy. Okay, let me tell you.
Won't be the first time.
Liam, I know, right? I have got to be the most eccentric out of us four. Listen, Liam got COVID just recently, just like a couple. He was in Geneva and he got COVID. His parents came by. His parents were in Italy. Oh, they brought me this shirt actually.
Oh.
His parents were in Italy. They came back. Um, his dad had gotten COVID, but they stayed with Liam while he was there. And then they came back and they dropped off our stuff. I had very little contact with these people when they came by. My in-laws, they just dropped off their stuff. They want to stay as very little time as possible because they knew that they had, or they knew he had COVID. Eventually, they both had COVID. They took a test and they both realized that they had COVID. I wasn't going to be able to take the test until 5 days later for the incubation process, apparently, or 3 days later. I think it is 3 days or whatever. So I had to wait to take the test, otherwise, I'd get a false reading, right? So in the meantime, while I'm waiting to take this test, oh, no, 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 that's not true. I waited for the time. I took the test. It came out negative, right? Then Liam calls me and he sounds all bad on the phone and he's like, I have COVID. I took the test. I tested positive or whatever, blah, blah, blah. He starts describing to me his symptoms and I started experiencing what he was describing in my own body, but I was negative.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sick at all. So I started, he was like, he felt tired. I didn't experience it immediately. I experienced it as when I hung up the phone, and I actually felt sick. Then I was like, wait, did I actually test? I mean, did I actually get COVID? I literally just took this test. So I made myself my special formula and stuff like that, and with and within and the next day I actually felt perfectly fine. But that time, like after I hung up the phone, I was feeling the effects that uh, he was describing to me, right? Like, yeah, I don't think it has to be a real thing. It is whatever your brain makes to be real that actually really matters. You know what I mean? To your point, Steve.
I feel like I had a hard time tracking you. Were you saying that your mind, because he told you he had it, all of a sudden now you believed you had it, COVID?
I felt that I had it. I didn't believe that I had it. I felt that I had it. Right. So I didn't think that I had it because I'd already tested myself. And then I tested myself again 5 days later and I was still negative. Right. So I didn't think that I had it. I felt that I had it. Like I heard him describing it and then I felt it inside myself. Oddly enough, this is also what happens when I watch movies and someone starts crying. I almost start crying, right? It's just it's just like a what they call a mirror. What do they call it? Mirror
I think
something.
yeah, the mirror neurons, I think, are part of it. But yeah,
Mirror, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Right. So,
Isn't it that same thing like when you see somebody else yawning, it's supposed to
something like that.
make
Yeah.
other
even
people
just even
yawn?
talking about
I
yawning,
haven't
Yeah.
I
I
haven't
already
even
feel it right
researched that,
now.
but yeah, right. Don't do that. I'm gonna start yawning. Listen.
so a couple of thoughts. I mean, that could have been coincidence. It's possible, right? It's possible it could have
Mm.
been coincidence. It's possible that, yeah, maybe your mind does impact your body, and there could be some correlation there too. Yeah, this is rough.
It is.
This is what makes
It's
his hypnosis so controversial because we're literally talking about theory, and I can't give you my experience. I mean, everyone's experience is different. So I guess maybe we need to understand. Okay, so what is maybe the question is, okay, so we're spending a lot of time talking about this. I think you're a use case, Nate. You've been through this. You said it took 7 months. So the question is, what if you hadn't done what you did 7 months ago? Are we implying that you would not have a job now, or two jobs, or however
There's
many?
literally no way to be able to prove that because we wouldn't know if 7 months, like, uh, you know, I don't know. Well, okay, I so I only recently got into hypnosis, and I only used that to try to get this job. Like I dreamed. So what happened was when I was trying to use this technique for the silver mind control method, I said, I think I said something along the lines of, I said, I'm going to have a dream, and in this dream, I want an answer to this question that I have, and the question was, will I get this job? The dream that I had was, and I don't know what it means, excuse me, but there were like four white bowls, and there was a dotted line between each of them. I think there were white dotted lines between each of them, and someone was pouring rice into the bowls, and they were pouring dry rice into the bowls. So the first bowl, they filled it up and it was overflowing, so it was like falling around the bowl. The second one, the same. The third one was the same, except it had less. Just like you would expect a normal bag of rice, you can only fill up so many, right? And just have it overflowing. So it just looked like that. Slowly, they weren't overflowing as much until we got to the fourth bowl, where the fourth bowl didn't even have enough to fill the bowl, right? So that is the dream that I had. I told myself I was going to remember it. I remembered it. I also told myself that I was going to understand it, which I didn't. I don't understand the dream. The only thing that I can think of is that I applied for four different positions. Was it four different positions? I think I had applied for like four different positions. Um, Wait, let me think about this. One,
Well, you don't have to get caught in the
two, three. Yeah,
details, but what you're
yeah. Sorry,
describing,
but anyways,
this
yeah,
this
that's what I had.
you've been through this before though. You've been through. Okay, so let's cut trace to the chase here on this example. You foresaw things that were to happen without explanation. You've told me this before, and I've seen it happen. You've seen things happen before they've happened, and I think that's what you're describing now, right? You're having a dream about the future, right?
I mean, that was the idea. I don't know. I don't know
We
because
don't
I don't
know.
know
We
what
may
the
look,
dream meant.
look like in
Yeah,
10 years, I'm like, that's what those bowls were.
exactly.
It was the four of us.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, it all makes sense now.
So you had a
Yeah, I
premonition.
don't
There's
know.
a premonition. I totally listened to a guy talk about this for an hour of very similar things where you had a dream and then
Mm,
it's a forecast of something or it's a precursor or a warning. But how does this
that
con
has happened.
but this isn't really a hypnosis conversation though, right? We're kind of I guess going off
Yes, no. It is because I did the silver mind control, which is a form of self hypnosis. Oh, by the way, a lot of people say all hypnosis is self hypnosis because you're the one that has to get yourself into that state,
right.
right? So that's the thing. But anyways, it's a form of self hypnosis where you train yourself instead of lucid dreaming, you train yourself to actually just have a specific dream. No, you don't tell yourself you're going to have a specific dream. You're going to say, whatever I dream this evening, I'm going to dream about this concept, or this concept is going to be in this dream, right? So you're not telling yourself, I'm going to have a dream about going to Disneyland. No, you're telling yourself, I want to know if I'm going to be able to go to Disneyland. So your dream might be about something totally different. But I chose to use this form to see if it worked. I was able to trigger a dream. I was able to remember the dream, but I wasn't able to tell what the dream meant.
Got it. Steve, I wonder as you're asking questions, are you thinking about this more from giving your background more from the healthcare side, saying, hey, should we provide this very dubious service to people, not knowing if we can prove if it works, or more from the personal view of, hey, should I go do this given I can't prove that it works. But if I take a sugar pill and I get healed, does it matter if it works or not? Does that make sense? I guess it's two ways to look at it, you know.
But that's a good question. Yeah, where are you coming from? Coming from?
So I am not. So you asked a question earlier about what are my thoughts or what has been taught to me when I was younger, kind of coming up. And I don't think I've ever had conversations about this. I don't know how I feel about this. I almost
Hmm.
am trying. It almost seems like a solution to some problems, but I guess I don't have those problems to need to go through this solution, or I go through a different route, I guess. So I guess I'm trying to just understand where does this fit in the big scheme of things. So I'm like, okay, well, you got a spectrum here. You got psychics and you got psychologists and doctors, and I'm like, okay, well, here, let's chop this thing up and let's figure out where does hypnosis fit on this line, so I can kind of even talk within a context that places it in the right place. But then when we talk about philosophy, then it's like or something that's like a faith-based belief thing, then this is all subjective. Everyone can believe whatever they want, no one really cares, there's nothing to prove here. Or if it's something that's scientifically proven, then it's almost like we're educating folks. And so I guess I don't even know where this fits in the big scheme of things, and I'm poking to figure out, okay, is this it, is that it?
Trying to find it?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
find it. It's
Well,
elusive.
the thing is, we don't honestly know. It's still we're still discovering. There are doctors. Speaking of doctors, there are doctors that use, obviously they're hypnotherapists, but like actual doctors who will ask for the services of hypnotherapy, or they will learn it for themselves to get their patients to like calm down more before or after a surgery, for example, or something like that, just to use that extra bit of brain power to help them with whatever task they're doing, surgery or whatever the situation is. So doctors actually do seem to believe, maybe not all of them, but they do seem to believe that this has some sort of merit, even if they don't know to what extent, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's
And other,
important. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I remember growing up, we excuse me, I was taught a very negative connotation of hypnosis. I remember being told, once you let somebody into your brain, you can't get them out, which is absolutely not true. Um, if you don't want somebody in your brain, you will continue. The thing is, well, it's true in the sense that your brain can always bring it back because your brain holds on to literally everything, right? Unless you have a lobotomy or something like that, you know. But it's not true where you cannot make a decision and be like, oh, that's I'm not even going to pay that any heed. We do that to everything that we do. You know, there's certain things we decide we're going to pay attention to when it comes to our brains going through in and out, and there's certain things we're just not going to do. We make that decision. So sorry, what were you going to say, Chris?
Now, I was just thinking about this, the whole topic. I think it's useful for us to talk through because hypnosis, as we saw, is a very broad blanket term that can encompass a
Yeah.
lot of different things with different definitions. But we do know
Mm-hmm.
several things are true. One thing that is true is that it is being used in a reputable clinical way for very
Yeah.
specific things. What's also true is that it's one we've already heard is could be dangerous to use it to retrieve memories. Now, I think some people are doing it, but it seems like that might not be the best use case. It may be a bad idea. I even read that some courts are disallowing testimony from someone that's been hypnotized to retrieve memories because
Oh,
it's not reliable in that way.
right.
So I think as we look at the broad use case, like, oh, it's not useful for this thing, so it's trash or garbage, I think is too far. To say, hey, it works for everything, just go and get hypnotized and it'll fix all your problems, I think is also not true. I think it's useful to
Mm-hmm.
kind of see kind of what it is, kind of how it's defined by professionals, right? We looked at Britannica, we looked at Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, like they're talking about it as if it's a thing, not like, oh, this quackpot theory we don't subscribe to. Like it's, it has use cases out there. And the use case is not, hey, go make me quack like a chicken and bark like a dog
Right.
whenever I hear the doorbell ring. Like that's not.
But hey, listen, that is the thing, okay?
Look, that's Nate's other piece at that Harry website
I've
that
never
we're not
done
gonna
it
quote
because
again,
it's
but
not interesting. But yeah.
right. don't even know. But yeah, for me, it's been interesting to kind of get back into it and kind of just see what's out there. Steve said he had really no thought about it before. I think a few of us
Yeah.
had kind of a negative spin to it, just given the upbringing. So it's been interesting to kind of see kind of where we all fit and kind of where it can be used for sure.
Yeah. So we're just gonna leave that there. Y'all can, chew on that for a little bit. See what see what I really like the concept of the brain. I really like seeing the things that are. I feel like that's our superpower. Our brain. I don't know what the limits are, or anything like that. I was also reading on ESP. I think I've told y'all about that. ESP, extrasensory. Well, it's
Perception
extrasensory perception,
or projection.
but when no perception, but um, what do you call it? The silver mind control. They call it extra sensory projection, where your you take yourself into like the alpha state or the theta state, and then pro- you use your imagination and you project your imagination, and the idea is you are projecting what you want into whatever needs to happen in order to get what you want. You know, not necessarily the way in which you imagine it, but you keep yourself open. So, anyways, there's those two different terms. But anyways, yeah. So I'm very interested in how the brain works. So yeah. So yeah. Steve, go ahead.
I don't want to.
Steve wants to
Final
go on for another
thought.
2 or 3 hours.
He does. Feel free. Tell us what tell us what you want. It'll be our final comment.
You don't want to know. Trust me.
We'll take it offline.
Right. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of Unofficially Opinionated. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation. I think we all did. At least we enjoyed talking about it.
Yes, sir.
Make sure to check us out on our socials. We are on YouTube, Unofficially Opinionated. If you watch us on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to our page and leave us comments. We like to see what you all think, and we will definitely respond to it. We'll definitely get back to you. Check us out on any Spotify platform that you use. Sometimes we especially on Spotify. Wait, did I say Spotify? I meant podcast.
You meant podcast. I got you. I understand.
I meant podcast. Huh. Jeez, check us out on any podcast platform. Spotify, we leave. Sometimes we leave questions for you to answer. So questions or polls. So leave those. Respond to those, and we will respond. Anywhere else? Twitter. We're on Twitter as well. Unofficially OP, I believe, is our
Yep.
And Instagram. We are doing more on Instagram and Twitter. So
yeah, I'm gonna make some more reels for you guys. So I think you guys like the last one. So more coming. So keep an eye out.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it, right?
I think that's it. Yeah. Thanks, folks.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Bye, Tim.
Bye, Tim.